April 15, 2013. Images of senseless violence and utter chaos burned into our memories forever.
But this was last year's Boston.
For some Mid-Michigan runners, the day would unfold in a fashion much too close for comfort.
There was just one loud boom, and then shortly after, another loud boom. But my initial response was, it's Patriots Day.
Derek Guddy, an East Lansing counselor and Iraq War veteran, had been running in his second Boston Marathon. Guddy captured this photo as he was crossing the finish line at 4 hours, 7 minutes. The first bomb went off near this exact spot approximately 2 minutes later. Guddy says his clinical practice and military background became useful throughout a shocking situation.
I identify it as very cerebral. I didn't have an emotional reaction, I guess to say, of fear at that time.
Gary McCrae, also of East Lansing, had crossed the finish line under 4 hours and was on his way back to his hotel.
At that point, you started to hear rumors where you ran into other runners or people on the street, and they said, we think a bomb went off, or bombs went off.
McCrae has been in 6 Boston marathons and has high hopes this year's race will go off without a hitch.
So it was a terrible tragedy, and I'm sure this year's race will be well protected and there'll be a lot of security, and they won't have a problem.
Terry Corella hits the River Trail, where she trains at nearly 20 miles a day in preparation for this year's Boston Marathon. The communications director at Cooley Law School and alumna of MSU, Corella has been running the marathon for a decade. Her experience became the subject of a recent book titled 4 hours, 9 minutes, 43 seconds by a Runner's World magazine editor.
And the way he wanted to write it was through the eyes of the people who experienced that day.
These capital city marathoners have run thousands of miles in Boston and say nothing will stop them from heading back to the starting line.
We are going to go back to Boston, and it's going to be bigger and better.
April 21st, 2014 will be a day of tribute for those affected by last year's bombings.
There's going to be people there, absolutely, that are going to be probably thinking about it.
And a chance to send a simple message.
Essentially dig your heels in and say, I'm not going to let anyone scare us away.